The air in the grand hall hummed with tension, not just from the 7 alien species glaring at each other, but from the woman standing at the center of it all. Dr. Cassandra Vale, Earth's ambassador, looked like she belonged on the cover of a war journal, not a diplomatic summit. Her sleek black suit hugged every lethal curve, her dark eyes scanning the room like a predator sizing up prey. Then, with a tap of her holographic tablet, she shattered the silence. "Just so we're clear," she said, her voice smooth as a blade being drawn, "Earth has contingency plans for every species in this room, including yours." The Zenthri ambassador hissed. The Draxian warlord tensed. The siren's claws flexed. And then, the first body hit the floor. "Please wait. Before we start, tap that iCard button in the top right corner and smash that subscribe button right now. Hit the notification bell so you're first in line when new stories land." All right, let's dive into the story. The Grand Hall of the Intergalactic Summit buzzed with a tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. Holographic banners flickered above, displaying the emblems of 7 alien species, their strange symbols casting eerie glows across the polished metallic floor. The air smelled faintly of ozone and something else, something sharp like anticipation. At the center of it all stood Dr. Cassandra Vale, Earth's newly appointed ambassador, her sleek black suit hugging every curve of her powerful frame. She looked like she belonged in a war room, not a diplomatic meeting. The Zenthri ambassador, a towering insectoid with iridescent wings that shimmered under the artificial lights, was the first to break the silence. His mandibles clicked as he spoke, his voice a raspy hiss. "You humans are unpredictable. That makes you dangerous." Cassandra didn't flinch. She tilted her head, her dark eyes locking onto his multifaceted ones. "Dangerous? No. Prepared? Absolutely." She tapped a finger against the holographic tablet in her hand, and a series of encrypted files flickered into the air. The Draxian ambassador, Kale Vor, a silver-skinned warrior with scars running down his neck, let out a low, rumbling laugh. "Prepared for what, little human? A war you couldn't possibly win." Cassandra's lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Not a war, Kale. A precaution." She swiped a hand through the holograms, and a list appeared. Names, schematics, biological data. Earth has contingency plans for every species in this room, including yours. A stunned silence fell. Then, chaos. The Siren ambassador, Nixera, a lithe, feline-like being with golden fur and piercing green eyes, let out a low, dangerous purr. "Is that a threat?" Cassandra shrugged. "Call it insurance." General Marcus Cole, the only other human in the room, shifted uncomfortably. His cybernetic whirred faintly as it focused on Cassandra. "Ambassador, maybe we should." She cut him off with a sharp glance. "They deserve to know." The Zenthri's wings flared, a sign of aggression. "Explain." "Now." Cassandra exhaled, as if bored. "Fine. Every species here has a weakness. A flaw in your biology, your technology, your infrastructure. We've mapped them. We've planned for them." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "And if necessary, we'll use them." Kaelvor's massive hands clenched into fists. "You wouldn't dare." Cassandra met his glare without blinking. "Try me." The room erupted. Voices overlapped. Accusations, demands, barely veiled threats. Only Nixera remained eerily calm, her tail flicking like a predator assessing its prey. "You're playing a dangerous game, human." Cassandra smirked. "And I always win." Then, just as the tension reached its peak, the Zenthri ambassador's wings suddenly stiffened. His entire body locked up, his exoskeleton emitting a faint, high-pitched whine. And then he collapsed. Dead. The room went utterly still. Cassandra didn't even look surprised. She simply tapped her tablet again, and the holograms vanished. "Like I said," she murmured, her voice icy. "Precautions." And in that moment, Every being in the room realized one terrifying truth. Earth wasn't just playing the game. They had rewritten the rules. The silence that followed the Zenthri ambassador's collapse was so absolute that even the hum of the station's life support systems seemed deafening. Every eye in the grand hall remained locked on the twitching corpse, its iridescent wings now dull and lifeless. Then, like a dam breaking, the room exploded into motion. The Draxian warriors drew their plasma blades in unison, the weapons crackling to life with a menacing blue glow. Kael'vor stepped forward, his silver skin flushing darker with rage. "What sorcery is this?" he bellowed, the veins in his neck bulging. Cassandra didn't retreat. She simply raised an eyebrow, her fingers still resting lightly on her tablet. "No sorfiti, just science." Nyxera, the Siren ambassador, let out a low, dangerous hiss, her golden fur bristling. "You murdered him." Cassandra turned her head just enough to meet the feline's emerald glare. "Correction, his biology murdered him. We just helped it along." General Marcus Cole finally broke from his stunned silence, moving to Cassandra's side. His cybernetic eye whirred as it zoomed in on the dead Zenthri. "Jesus, gas, you could have warned me." She shot him a sideways glance. "Would you have stopped me?" Before Marcus could answer, Kael slammed a fist onto the conference table, the metal buckling under his strength. "Enough! You will explain this treachery, human, or I will peel the answers from your flesh." Cassandra sighed, as if dealing with a temperamental child. "Fine. The Zenthri's nervous system operates on a specific bioelectrical frequency. Disrupt that frequency and—" She gestured to the corpse. "Lights out." Nyxera's tail lashed violently. "And you just happen to have this weapon ready?" Cassandra's smile was razor thin. "We have one for every species here. Like I said, precautions." The remaining ambassadors exchanged uneasy glances. The air grew thick with tension, the kind that came before a storm. Marcus leaned in, his voice a harsh whisper. "You're playing with fire. They won't just let this slide." Cassandra didn't look at him. "They don't have a choice." Kael let out a roar of fury and lunged, only to freeze mid-step as Cassandra tapped her tablet. His muscles locked, his silver skin paling as if drained of energy. She tilted her head. Draxian physiology relies on trace minerals in the bloodstream. Remove them and— She shrugged. "Let's just say you don't want to test me, Kael." The massive warrior shuddered, then stumbled back, his breath ragged. For the first time, fear flickered in his crimson eyes. Nyxera bared her fangs. "You're a monster." Cassandra met her gaze without flinching. "No, I'm what happens when monsters come knocking." Then, from the shadows near the door, a voice neither human nor alien spoke. A voice that sent chills down every spine in the room. And what happens when we do? All heads turned. Standing in the doorway was something that shouldn't have been possible. Something that, according to every known law of physics, didn't exist. Cassandra's fingers tightened around her tablet. The game had just changed. The figure in the doorway shimmered like a mirage, its form constantly shifting between solid and translucent. It had no discernible features, just a vaguely humanoid shape that seemed to drink in the light around it. The temperature in the room dropped sharply, their breath visible in sudden frosty puffs. Marcus was the first to react, his military instincts kicking in. He stepped in front of Cassandra, his cybernetic eye scanning frantically. "What the hell is that?" The entity's voice came again, not from any mouth but vibrating through their bones. "We are the Forgotten." Nyxera's claws extended with a sharp snick, her feline pupils dilating to black pools. "Impossible. Your kind were exterminated centuries ago." The being pulsed with dark energy. "And yet here we stand." Cassandra's fingers flew across her tablet, but for the first time, the screen flickered erratically. She cursed under her breath. "Marcus, we've got a problem. It's jamming our systems." Kael'vor recovered from his weakness, his massive chest heaving. "You fear this thing?" His laugh was harsh, pathetic, The entity turned its non-face toward the Draxian. Your arrogance remains unchanged, warrior. We remember how your ancestors begged before the end. Kale's silver skin flushed crimson. Lies! Without warning, the being stretched out an appendage or what might have been an arm, and Kale screamed. His veins turned black beneath his skin, creeping up his neck like poison. Cassandra acted fast. She slammed her palm against a hidden panel on her wristband. A high-pitched whine filled the air, and the entity recoiled slightly. Kale collapsed to his knees, gasping. Nixera's ears flattened against her skull. What did you just do? High-frequency pulse, Cassandra said through gritted teeth. Doesn't kill them, but it hurts like hell. The Forgotten One rippled in what might have been amusement. Clever little human, but your toys won't save you. Marcus grabbed Cassandra's arm. We need to move. Now. She shook him off. And go where? They're already here. The entity began advancing, the floor cracking and blackening beneath it. We have waited so long to finish what was started. The harvest begins tonight. Nixera let out a battle cry and lunged, her claws slashing through the creature's form, only to pass harmlessly through mist. The Forgotten didn't even turn as it backhanded her across the room. She hit the wall with a sickening crunch. Kale struggled to his feet, his breathing ragged. If we die fighting. Cassandra's eyes darted between her failing tablet and the approaching horror. Then her expression changed. A slow, dangerous smile spread across her face. No, we don't fight them. Marcus stared at her. Are you insane? She tapped a final command into her device. We wake up what they're really afraid of. The station's emergency lights flashed blood red as an ancient, buried protocol activated. Deep below their feet, something answered Cassandra's call. Something that shouldn't have been disturbed. The forgotten creature froze. For the first time, its voice carried something like fear. What have you done? Cassandra's smile never wavered as the walls began to shake. I just even the odds. The station shook violently, throwing everyone off balance. Emergency klaxons wailed as ancient systems roared to life, their deep mechanical groans vibrating through the floor plates. A section of the far wall exploded outward in a shower of sparks, revealing a yawning black chasm beneath the station. Nixera dragged herself up from where she'd been thrown, wiping golden blood from her muzzle. What fresh hell is this? The forgotten entity recoiled from the expanding darkness, its form flickering erratically. No, this cannot be. Cassandra braced herself against the trembling console, her dark hair whipping across her face. You didn't think we'd just find your kill switches and stop there, did you? Marcus grabbed her shoulder, his cybernetic eye scanning the growing void. Cass, what exactly did you wake up? Before she could answer, something moved in the darkness. Massive, segmented shadows uncoiled like waking serpents. A deep, resonant hum filled the air, not a sound, but a vibration that made their teeth ache. Kale staggered back, his warrior's composure cracking. By the void, the forgotten entity shrieked, an unnatural, multi-tonal wail, as the shadows lashed out. Writhing tendrils of pure darkness wrapped around it, dragging the screaming being toward the abyss. Nixera's first stood on end. They're eating it. Cassandra watched coldly as the entity disappeared into the black. Not eating, recycling. The station gave one final shudder before the chasm sealed itself, leaving only scorch marks on the walls. The sudden silence was deafening. Marcus turned on Cassandra, his face pale. You knew these things were down there? Of course. She straightened her suit jacket calmly. Buried deep under every major intergalactic hub, the precursor's final failsafe. Kale's breathing was ragged. You mad woman, you could have killed us all. Cassandra gave him a withering look. But I didn't. And now we have proof of concept. She held up her tablet, which now displayed a pulsing red waveform. The forgotten aren't invincible, just forgotten. Nixera's tail flicked nervously. That thing called it the harvest. What did it mean? The lights flickered ominously as Cassandra's expression darkened. It means this was just the opening act. She turned toward the observation windows, where the stars burned cold and distant. They're coming. All of them. And we're the only ones who know how to stop it. Marcus followed her gaze, his human eye widening. Outside the station, the stars were moving. Not ships. Not asteroids. Something far older and far hungrier was waking up. Cassandra's fingers flew across her tablet. We have 72 hours before they reach critical mass. Kale let out a bitter laugh. And what then? More of your human tricks. She met his gaze without flinching. No, this time we used theirs. The station's AI suddenly came to life. Its voice panicked. Unauthorized activation detected in Sector 9. Containment protocols failing. Nixera's ears flattened. What now? Cassandra's smile was grim as new alerts flooded her screen. Seems we're not the only ones who had contingency plans. Deep below them, something else began to stir. The station's metallic walls groaned as another tremor rocked the structure, this one deeper and more visceral than before. The air itself seemed to vibrate with a strange, rhythmic pulse, like the slow heartbeat of some slumbering giant. Warning lights painted everyone's faces in alternating flashes of red and yellow. Marcus gripped the console until his knuckles turned white. That's not the Forgotten. That's something else. Cassandra's tablet buzzed violently in her hands, the screen displaying a rapidly descending countdown. 59 minutes and 59 seconds. 59 minutes and 58 seconds. Nixera's golden eyes darted between the humans and the shuddering walls. You've doomed us all. Kael'vor let out a bitter laugh, still rubbing his blackened veins. At least we'll take these monsters with us. Cassandra ignored them, her fingers flying across the tablet's surface. No. This shouldn't be happening yet. Marcus leaned over her shoulder. What shouldn't? The precursor vault, she hissed. It's opening early. A deafening clang echoed through the station, followed by the sound of ancient mechanisms grinding to life. The floor panels near the far wall suddenly retracted, revealing a hidden shaft descending into darkness. A cold, blue light pulsed from its depths. Nixera took an involuntary step back, her claws extending. What in the seven hells is down there? Cassandra's voice was barely above a whisper. Our only chance. The station's AI blared again, its voice distorted. Warning, quantum lock disengaged. Containment breach imminent. Kale grabbed Cassandra by the arm, his massive hand nearly encircling her bicep. Enough riddles, human. What did you wake up? She didn't flinch. The precursors didn't just leave contingencies for alien species. They left something for themselves. A deep, resonant hum rose from the shaft, vibrating through their bones. The blue light intensified, casting long, twisted shadows across the walls. Marcus drew a sidearm. That doesn't sound friendly. It's not. Cassandra pulled free from Kale's grip and moved toward the shaft. But it's the only thing the Forgotten ever feared. The temperature plummeted. Frost crackled across the consoles, creeping toward their feet. The blue light flickered once, twice, and then something floated up from the darkness. It was a sphere, perfectly smooth, perfectly black, and yet, somehow, it drank the light around it, warping the very air like a gravitational anomaly. Nixera let out a strangled sound. A void egg, the sphere pulsed, and, for a fraction of a second, they all saw inside it. Saw the eyes, hundreds of them, watching, waiting. Marcus's gun clattered to the floor. Oh God, Cassandra took a shuddering breath. Not gods, precursors. The countdown on her tablet hit 0. And then, the egg cracked. The sound of the cracking egg wasn't a sound at all. It was a void, a split second of absolute silence that swallowed every other noise in the universe. Then light. Not the warm glow of stars or the harsh glare of artificial bulbs, but something other. A shimmering, iridescent radiance that twisted in the air like liquid, casting warped reflections across the walls. Nyxera was the first to react, her feline instincts screaming at her to run. She backpedaled so fast she nearly tripped over her tail. Seal the shaft. Now! Kael'vor didn't move. He stood frozen, his silver skin reflecting the unnatural light, his crimson eyes wide. It's beautiful. Marcus grabbed Cassandra's arm, his voice a harsh whisper. You said this was a weapon, not a damn hatchery. Cassandra didn't answer. She couldn't. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps as she stared at the fissure spreading across the sphere's surface. Then a hand. Pale, elongated fingers curled around the edge of the crack, their tips tapered to needle-like points. The skin wasn't quite skin. It shimmered, shifting between solid and something else like smoke given form. Nyxera let out a choked hiss. We need to leave. Now. The station's AI blared again, its voice fraying at the edges. Critical containment failure. All personnel evacuate. This is not a drill. Kael finally snapped out of his trance, shaking his head like a man waking from a dream. No, we fight. Marcus barked a laugh, half hysterical. Fight what exactly? The answer came as the egg shattered. The being that unfolded from within was neither human nor alien. It stood on too many limbs, its body a shifting mass of angles that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. Its face, if it could be called a face, was smooth, featureless save for a single vertical slit where a mouth might have been. And then it spoke, not in words, not in sound, but directly into their minds. A voice like fractured glass scraping against bone. We have slept long enough. The pain was instant. Nyxera screamed, clutching her head as blood trickled from her ears. Kael dropped to his knees, his massive frame trembling. Marcus gritted his teeth so hard that something cracked. Only Cassandra remained standing, though her nose bled freely. She lifted her chin, meeting the creature's gaze. If it even had eyes to meet. You were supposed to stay asleep, she hissed. The precursor tilted its head, the motion too fluid, too wrong. You woke us. Cassandra's fingers tightened around her tablet. No, they did. She swiped a command across the screen. And outside the station's observation windows, the approaching swarm of forgotten ships erupted into flame. The precursor's head snapped toward the destruction. Cassandra smiled, blood staining her teeth. Welcome back. The station trembled as the forgotten armada burned outside the viewports, their ships dissolving like paper in flame. The precursor didn't move, it didn't need to. Its presence alone seemed to warp reality, the air around it rippling like a heat mirage. Nyxera wiped blood from her muzzle, her golden fur matted with sweat. You used them as bait? Cassandra didn't take her eyes off the precursor. I used them as a message. The creature's featureless face turned toward her, its slit of a mouth curling at the edges. Clever little thing. The words slithered into their minds, oily and cold. You know what we are. Marcus, still gripping his head from the psychic assault, staggered to his feet. Yeah, the original monsters. Kael'vor let out a ragged breath, his silver skin dulled by pain. Then why wake them? Cassandra finally looked away from the precursor, meeting each of their gazes in turn. Because the Forgotten weren't just running from something. She tapped her tablet, pulling up a star map. They were running to something. The display zoomed out, revealing a cluster of signals moving toward the galaxy's edge. Nyxera's tail lashed. More of them. No. Cassandra's voice dropped to a whisper. The source. The precursor's limbs twitched, its body folding and unfolding in impossible ways. The Harvester. A chill ran down Marcus's spine. That's what they were afraid of. The precursor's head tilted too far to the side. IT consumes. It grows. It cannot be stopped. Kael let out a bitter laugh. So we wake one horror to fight another? Cassandra's fingers flew across her tablet. No, we wake them to finish what they started. The precursor went perfectly still. Then, without warning, it laughed, a sound like shattering glass. You wish to arm US against our own failure. Cassandra didn't blink. I wish to survive. And so do you. The station's AI suddenly blared, its voice frantic. Unidentified entity approaching at translight speed. Estimated arrival, 60 seconds. Outside, the stars themselves seemed to bend, warping around a vast, shapeless darkness. Nyxoris first stood on end. It's here. The precursor's body rippled, its form stretching, growing, becoming something even more terrible. Then we fight. Marcus grabbed Cassandra's arm. And after, what stops them from turning on us? She met his gaze, her dark eyes reflecting the dying light of the forgotten fleet. The same thing that always does. She tapped her tablet one last time. Deep beneath the station, in the vault where the egg had rested, a new countdown began. The precursor's voice echoed in their minds, softer now, almost grateful. Clever little thing. Then it was gone, vanishing into the void between stars. The harvester loomed closer. The countdown ticked lower, and as the first shockwaves of the coming battle rattled the station, Cassandra allowed herself one small, satisfied smile. The game wasn't over yet, but for the first time in millennia, the monsters were fighting each other, and not the rest of the universe. And that was the end of the story. Comment below if you want the next chapter, and hit that like button. Please subscribe, turn on the bell, and, as always, keep the last light burning.